Hello, it's Mario and Sonic Productions 21st Century speaking. Let's do a story night, shall we? And it's one of the stories from the Railway Series collection, Thomas the Tank Engine. Today I'm going to do... Let's do Thomas's Train, shall we? So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Thomas often grumbled because he was not allowed to pull passenger trains. The other engines laughed. "You're too impatient," they said. "You be sure to leave something behind." "Rubbish," said Thomas. "You just wait. I'll show you." One night he and Henry were alone. Henry was ill. The men worked hard, but he didn't get better. Now Henry usually pulled the first train in the morning, and Thomas had to get his coaches ready. If Henry is ill, he thought, maybe I shall pull his train. Thomas ran to find the coaches. Come along, he fussed. There's plenty of time, grumbled the coaches. He took them to the platform and wanted to run around at the front at once, but his driver wouldn't let him. Don't be impatient, Thomas, he said. So Thomas waited and waited. The people got in, the guard and station master walked up and down, the porters banged the doors, and still Henry didn't come. Thomas got more and more excited every minute. The fact director came out of his office to see what was the matter, and the guard and station master told him about Henry. Find another engine, he ordered. There's only Thomas, they said. You'll have to do it then, Thomas. Be quick now. So Thomas ran to the front and back down on the coaches, ready to start. Don't be impatient, said his driver. Wait until everything was ready. But Thomas was too excited to listen to a word he said. What happened then, no one knows. Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train, or perhaps Thomas was too impatient to wait until they were ready, or maybe his driver pulled the lever by mistake. Anyhow, Thomas started. People shouted and waved at him, but he didn't stop. They're waving because I'm such a splendid engine, he thought importantly. Henry says it's hard to pull trains, but I think it's easy. Hurry, 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 he puffed, pretending to be like Gordon. As he passed the first signal box, he saw the men leaning out and waving and shouting. They are pleased to see me, he thought. They've never seen me pull a train before. It's nice of them to wave, and he whistled, "Peep, peep, thank you," and hurried on. But then he came to a signal at danger. Bother, he thought. I must stop, and I was going so nicely too. What a nuisance signals are, and he grew an angry peep, peep on his whistle. One of the signalmen ran up. Hello, Thomas, he said. What are you doing here? I'm pulling a train, said Thomas proudly. Can't you see? Where are your coaches then? Thomas suddenly looked back. Why, bless me, he said, if we haven't left them behind. Yes, said the signalman. You'd better go back quickly and fetch them. Poor Thomas was so sad he nearly cried. Cheer up, Thomas, said his driver. Let's go back quickly and try again. At the station, all the passengers were talking at once. They were telling the fact director and the station master and the guard what a bad railway it was. But when Thomas came back, they saw how sad it was and couldn't be cross. So they coupled him to the train, and this time he really pulled it. How? Well done. But for a long time afterwards, the other engines would laugh at Thomas and said, Oh, look, there's Thomas who wants to pull a train, but forgot about the coaches. But Thomas had already learned not to make the same mistake again. You see, it's good to be patient after all, you see. Should we do another one? Yeah, let's do that. Which one should we do next? I know. Toby and the Stout Gentleman. See if I can find it. Page 89. Yep, let's do Toby and the Stout Gentleman. Toby is a tram engine. He is short and sturdy. He has cow catchers and side plates and doesn't look like a steam engine at all. He takes trucks from farms and factories to the main line, and the big engines take them to London and elsewhere. His tram line runs along roads and through the fields and villages. Toby rings his bell cheerfully to everyone he meets. He's got a coach called Henrietta, who has seen better days. She complains because she has fewer passengers. Toby is attached to Henrietta and always takes her with him. She might be useful one day, he says. It's not fair at all, grumbles Henrietta as buses roar past full of passengers. She remembers that she used to be full of passengers and 9 trucks would rattle behind her. Now there are only 3 or 4, for the farms and factories send their goods mostly by lorry. Toby is always careful on the road. The cars and buses often have accidents. Toby hasn't had an accident for years, but the buses are crowded and Henrietta is empty. I can't understand it, said Toby the tram engine. People come to see Toby, but they come by a bus. They stare at him. He isn't isn't, they say and laugh. They make him very cross. One day, a car stopped close by, and a little boy jumped out. Come on, Bridget, he called to his sister, and together they ran across to Toby. 2 ladies and a stout gentleman followed. The gentleman looked important, but nice. The children ran back. Come on, grandfather, do look at this engine, and is seizing his hands. They almost dragged him along. That's a tram engine, Stephen, said the stout gentleman. Is it electric? Asked Bridget. Whoosh! Hissed Toby crossly. Shh! Said her brother. You've offended him. But trams are electric, are they? They are mostly, but this is a steam tram, said the stout gentleman. May we go on it, grandfather, please? The guard began to blow his whistle. Stop, said the stout gentleman, and raised his hand. The guard surprised and opened his mouth, and the whistle fell out. Whilst he was picking it up, they all scrambled into Henrietta. Hip, hip, hooray, chanted Henrietta, and rattled happily behind. But Toby didn't sing. Electric indeed, he snorted. He was very hurt, but was proud to be a steam engine, though. The stout gentleman and his family got out of the junction, but waited for Toby to take them back to their car. See, poor Toby was hurt. What is your name? Asked the gentleman. Toby, sir. Thank you, Toby, for a very nice ride. Thank you, sir, said Toby politely. He felt much better now. This gentleman, he thought, is a gentleman who knows how to speak to engines. The children came every day for 2 weeks. Sometimes they rode with the guards, sometimes in empty trucks. And on the last day, All of the drivers invited him to his cab. All were sorry when they had to go away. Stephen and Bridget said thank you to Toby, his driver and fireman, and the guard. The scout gentleman gave them a present. Peep, 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 whistled Toby. Come again soon. We will, called the children, and they all waved until Toby was out of sight. Months passed, and Toby had few trucks and fewer passengers. Our last day, Toby, said his driver sadly one morning. The manager says we must close tomorrow. That day, Henrietta wanted more passengers than she could manage. They rode on the trucks and crowded in the brake van, and the guard hadn't had enough tickets to go around. The passengers joked and sang, but Toby and his driver wished they wouldn't. Goodbye, Toby, said the passengers afterwards. We are sorry your line is closing down. So am I, said Toby sadly. The last passenger left the station, and Toby puffed slowly to his shed. No one wants me, he thought, and went unhappily to sleep. The next morning, the shed was flung open, and he woke to start with his fireman dancing with a jig outside, his driver excited and waved a piece of paper. Wake up, Toby, they shouted. Listen to this. It's a letter from the stout gentleman. Toby listened. But he'll know later on, because that's another story. Well, that was nice. Did you guys enjoy that? Let me know if you did. I'll do more next time. Goodbye.